Okay. So Nana is a bit of a Velcro dog. She was an owner's surrender, and Hearts United has placed her in a great house with a good guardian. But she follows you everywhere, correct?
Yep.
And when I go to pet her, she does this. This is a control move. She's trying to say, I want you to continue doing what you're doing. Well, let me ask you one other question before I guess we really get into that. What rules does she have?
Well, she doesn't do a lot of jumping. She's actually not a jumping dog. But not a ton. I mean, we haven't really found any aggressive things with her.
Okay.
It's just mostly she likes to lick incessantly. So
sure. Okay.
We
so
try to say no to that.
So basically, she doesn't have any rules.
No.
I'm gonna have you hand the camera to your mom, so we don't have to do it sideways the whole time, and we can kind of get a little bit more perspective. All right. So basically, no rules. I'm assuming no rules for Opal as well.
No,
okay.
I mean, it's just housebroken.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, for dogs, basically they go through life probing, waiting to be corrected or rewarded.
Yeah.
If we don't actually have any rules, then we don't do much correcting or rewarding. For a lot of dogs, especially dogs that come from a rescue environment, or their guardians feel really sorry for them.
Yes.
And they try to make up for what happened in the past. And for some reason, humans seem to think that rules are a bad thing.
Yeah.
And so we're going to remove all rules.
Okay.
For a dog that's insecure, actually having rules and boundaries is comforting.
Yeah.
I know exactly how far I can go. When I don't know what the boundary is, that uncertainty weighs on a dog. Sit. So for her, getting back to her, so whenever you were petting her and she puts her paw on top, I would immediately stop petting her. That's the consequence. Okay. So if I'm petting you, I'm doing it on my terms.
Yep.
Now, the other thing that I noticed that she was doing is this. This is a demand to pet me.
Okay.
So, and I notice every time, and this is also a kind of a cute way of doing it, but also another demand to pet me. Now, when she does this, you pet her, correct?
Usually, yeah.
Okay. So she gets to tell the humans what to do.
Yeah.
And the humans do it.
Yeah.
If you are responsible for another, you have more stress in your life with that responsibility.
Yeah.
So if dogs don't have any rules and they get to tell the humans what to do and the humans validate it, that tells the dog that they're in a leadership or authority position.
Okay.
And if they're in an authority position, there's some responsibility that comes from that. And when you have dogs come from a rescue background, that's really not a good combination for them for building up their self-esteem or confidence. So what I do is when the dog nudges me for attention, of course she doesn't want to do it now. Well, when they nudge me for attention, I give them a counter order. Instead of following their order, I say sit, sit, and then I pet them. Now, I want to say the command word the second that the dog sits down. You have about a window of 3 seconds. A lot of people talk way too much to their dog. Now, talking to your dog if you had a bad day is fine. Can you believe that woman cut me off and they wouldn't take my check and blah, blah, blah? That's fine. But if your dog, if you come home and you're like, sit, oh my God, you sat down, you're the smartest sitter of all. How did you get to be such a smart dog? She doesn't understand what all that means, and the more words we use, the more confusing it gets for them. So when they nudge at me or scratch at me, they're giving me an order. I consider petting our dogs our way of paying them or compensating them. So I'm going to pay the dog for doing what I want it to do, not for what it wants to do.
Yeah.
Now, it might sound a little bit selfish, but for dogs, then it helps them to kind of start generating a follower's mindset. Followers don't have as much responsibility, and therefore is not as much stress. Sit, sit. So if I'm using a treat, the second the treat touches lips, she should hear the command word at the same time. Okay. Now, I also like to pet the dog under its chin. I do that for 2 reasons. Number one, when a dog is proud about what it's done, its nose is parallel to the ground or tilted upward.
Okay.
And so because your dogs have had some spotty backgrounds, we want to help them feel good about themselves, and just simply manipulating them into that body mechanic will help with that.
Okay.
Number 2 is I want to, this motion with my hand often will put a dog into an SIT. Of course, you're not going to do it because now we're filming. That looked like I had a treat. Sit. So within 3 seconds of her sitting, I'm going to pet her and say sit at the same time. Now, if I give her a treat at the same time that I do this, come, sit, sit. I say sit the second it touches her lips. At the same time I pet her here. Then eventually the treat and this become analogous, and then you don't have to use a treat, and this is just as good as a cookie.
Okay.
Also for her, because she's a running dog, this, as you can see, she's tracking my hand because it looks like I have something. So if I always give a treat like this, those times that she runs away and she doesn't have a treat, you don't have a treat, you can pantomime. I don't have a pocket here. But now because I went through the motions of doing that, it looks like I have one. Okay, so at first, whenever she nudges at you, scratches at you, or puts her paw on you, for attention, give her a counter order, ask her to sit or lie down.
Okay.
As soon as she sits or lies down, then pet her and say sit, or what's the command word for lie down? She have
Just
one?
down.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you could pet her for a couple seconds. Now, if you want to then talk to her, then at that point you can talk to her for an hour, and it doesn't matter what you say, and you can continue to pet her.
Yeah.
But making her earn her pets will go a long ways towards helping her feel, oh, you're the authority figure, and so this is what I got. Dogs want to please us, so this is, I know something I can do to please her.
Yeah.
Now, after a while, what's going to happen? She's going to come and sit in front of you and say, "Look, I'm sitting pretty. Shouldn't you be petting me?"
Yeah.
The answer is yes, at least some of the time. Otherwise, they're going to go back to nudging at you, scratching you, or pawing at you. So when she does sit then, on her own, then we just reach over and pet her and say, "Sit." Now, I call this passive training. So if I have a dog that doesn't know how to lay down, or it's like an old show dog where they train it to walk with its hand, stand with its hind legs behind it, it's hard to manipulate him into a sit the way that I did here. So for those dogs, I just wait for them to lay down. As soon as they do, then I reach over and pet them and say down, or whatever the command word is. So anything your dog does on its own, you can pet and condition or train the dog to do on its own. Petting with a purpose is probably the easiest thing that you can do that will have the biggest impact on your dog's behavior. And after a while, you can do it like that without saying anything, and she'll get better and faster at it the more you do it. Then you can be having a conversation with your mom or somebody else and just put the dog in a sit and not say a word to the dog in English, but you have a whole conversation with her.
Yeah.
Is it just you in the house?
No, my husband as well.
So what I would do is I would come up with like a watchword between you and your husband, maybe say paycheck. So if you find yourself, you come in the room and you see your husband's petting the dog for no reason, you say paycheck, he immediately stops. And then he asks the dog to sit. As soon as the dog sits, so ask her to sit.
Sit.
Now pet her.
Oh, good girl.
Oh, good girl doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't.
So we want to just give her the confidence that sit means sit and is associated with the reward. So even if your husband had asked the dog to sit before you came in the room, he throws his hands up and says sit again. The dog sits and then he pets and says sit. Then he says, I had asked her to sit before you came in the room. But instead, if you argue, I told her to sit before you came in here, now there's some dissension. Well, the dogs think that the humans are all on the same page and they're the outlier.
Yeah.
That creates more of a wanting to be part of the group. So, and asking the dog to sit again is not asking a lot, and it's helpful. So that's petting with a purpose. It is the easiest thing that you will do that will have the biggest impact to your dog, and if you can do it for about a 1 or 2 week period, you'll develop a habit of doing it, and it will help reinforce the leader-follower dynamic between you and your dog for the rest of your life.
Okay.